In November, Leo chose Alum Mountain in the Adirondack Range for his hike. Known for its difficulty, Leo faced all the challenges head-on. In May, after the snow had melted, a group of hikers stumbled upon a chilling sight, a body, partially decomposed, tangled in leaves and soil. What had Leo endured during those long months? He set out for what should have been a simple 2-day solo hike, but he never returned. For nearly a year, Leo Dufour's fate remained a mystery, until a chilling discovery was made in the most unexpected place. At just 22, Leo wasn't like other young men. Quiet, introspective, and with a deep love for nature, he was no stranger to tough trails. His journey began in the quiet town of Vaudreuil, Quebec, but what happened on the mountainside that day? Why did it take so long for the truth to surface? The unanswered questions linger, unsettling and eerie. By late November 2024, Leo set his sights on Alum Mountain, one of the most treacherous peaks in the Adirondack Range. Known for its rugged terrain and unforgiving weather, few dare to hike it in winter, but Leo wasn't like most hikers. Experienced and precise, he had calculated every move. Alone, he ventured into the wild, determined to conquer the mountain. The weather was unpredictable, yet he pressed on. He signed the trail register at Mount Adams on November 29th, the last trace of him. He hadn't shared the details of his trip, treating it as just another challenge. But that day, something went horribly wrong. Was it nature's cruelty or a mistaken judgment? As the days passed, his silence grew heavier, raising more questions than answers. Something unseen, something terrifying, had taken hold of Leo, and no one could have predicted the twisted fate that awaited him. On the morning of November 29th, 2024, Leo Dufour, 22, arrived at the Mount Adams trailhead in Newcomb, New York. He signed the trail register, marking his intention to complete the hike in a single day. It seemed like a routine trip, challenging, yes, but nothing Leo couldn't handle. He was seasoned, familiar with tough trails and the harshest terrains. Yet, after that morning, Leo vanished without a trace. The next day, November 30th, his father began to worry. No message, no check-in, just silence. Panic set in when Leo didn't return home. His father reported him missing, but at first, there was still hope. Maybe Leo had decided to camp out overnight, or maybe he had been delayed. But as hours turned into days, that hope began to fade. What had happened on Mountain? The silence stretched longer, and with each passing hour, the possibility of a simple delay seemed less likely. Something far darker was unfolding. On December 1st, the official search began. The New York State Police and forest rangers rushed into action, but what they found at the trailhead was far more unsettling than they expected. Leo's vehicle sat untouched, buried under a heavy blanket of snow. It hadn't moved since he parked it. That discovery shifted the search from concern to a chilling alarm. Something was terribly wrong. The trail to Alum Mountain was no ordinary path. It was a brutal, remote trek through thick forests, raging rivers, and steep cliffs. And now, winter had completely set in. Snow piled up over 4 feet deep in places, especially above 3,000 feet. Winds howled relentlessly, and visibility was nearly non-existent. Even the most seasoned searchers struggled, their movements slow, their equipment nearly useless. Snowshoes sank deep into the drifts, and helicopters were grounded by the fierce storms. The trail had become a labyrinth of dangers. For days, rangers combed the wilderness, desperate for any clue. Yet, despite their best efforts, nothing surfaced. No footprints, no discarded gear, nothing to indicate where Leo had gone or what had happened to him. The search grew grimmer with every passing day, and as the days turned to weeks, it became clear that hope was fading. Nature was unforgiving, and for a lone hiker without any contact, survival was slipping away. What had happened on Mountain? Where had Leo gone? The forest kept its secrets, and with each failed search, the mystery deepened. Even as the days stretched on and the headlines faded, Leo's family clung to hope, unwilling to believe that their son was gone forever. They believed that, somehow, they would uncover the truth of what had happened to him in those cold, dark mountains. But for now, the forest remained eerily silent, and Leo Dufour's disappearance remained a mystery. His search became one of the most challenging and intense rescue operations New York State Forest Rangers had ever faced. Once Leo's abandoned vehicle was discovered near the Mount Adams trailhead in Newcomb, the urgency heightened. This was no ordinary missing persons case. Have you subscribed to my channel yet? Please hit that subscribe button for me. In return, I'll keep bringing you even better videos about the world's most terrifying cases. Don't forget to leave a comment down below if you have any ideas or suggestions. An experienced hiker had disappeared deep within the Adirondack Mountains, and with each passing hour, the chances of finding him alive slipped away. The very next day after Leo was reported missing, teams mobilized, but they were met with brutal conditions. Winter had gripped the High Peaks region with a vengeance. Snowdrifts piled up to 4 feet deep at elevations above 3,000 feet, making every step feel like a struggle against nature itself. The deep snow didn't just slow them down, it buried any traces of Leo, hiding footprints and clues. Allen Mountain, the destination where Leo was believed to be headed, was no easy hike. Known for its remoteness and rugged terrain, it's a trail that requires a commitment only the most experienced hikers make. Even in summer, it's a grueling challenge. But in winter, it was treacherous, perfect for hiding secrets. The search for Leo Dufour took a toll on everyone involved. Rangers hiked for hours, each step bringing them closer to the unknown, knowing they might be trailing behind a man in desperate need of help or worse, already lost to the mountain. Every ascent, every descent, each crossing through dense woods and icy streams felt like a race against time. Despite the brutal conditions, the response was massive. 59 forest rangers were dispatched to the case, covering over 400 miles on foot. Day after day, they moved in shifts, hoping for a sign, anything, whether it was a piece of clothing disturbed in the snow or a broken branch to point the way. But with each passing day, the trail remained eerily silent, and the snow kept falling, burying any clues beneath its icy grip. The Adirondack wilderness didn't make the job easier. It was harsh, unforgiving, a maze of ravines, icy brooks, tangled brush, and steep ridges that slowed every step. In some sections, rangers had to carve their way through thick snow or climb icy ledges, all while carrying heavy rescue packs. Footing was treacherous, and visibility was poor. Even the most seasoned rescuers admitted that this was some of the most difficult terrain they'd ever faced. Was the mountain hiding Leo? Or had something far darker already claimed him? As the days passed, the hope that technology might offer a breakthrough dwindled. Helicopters were deployed, sweeping the forest from above, their blades cutting through the cold air. Infrared scanners designed to detect body heat were activated, but the same stormy conditions that hampered the search on the ground also grounded the air teams. Snowstorms and thick cloud cover obstructed visibility, making it nearly impossible to spot anything from the sky. The dense canopy of the forest only added to the difficulty, as infrared imaging struggled to penetrate the thick foliage, hiding any potential signs. The technology that had promised an advantage now seemed like another obstacle, mocking their efforts. Days turned into a week. Then, 8 days passed with no trace, no sign of Leo. The mission, once a frantic rescue, was now reclassified. The shift in terminology spoke volumes. The goal was no longer to bring Leo home alive, it was simply to find him. Yet, even as hope waned, the Rangers didn't stop. Their search was relentless, methodical, grueling grid searches across miles of treacherous terrain. The magnitude of the task weighed heavily on them, but the pressure was greater. They understood the weight of the loss, the family's pain, and the growing questions that would remain unanswered for a long time. Weeks passed, and the snow continued to pile up over the trail, burying any evidence of what had happened to Leo. The mountain, in its cold, indifferent silence, seemed to be erasing every trace of his presence. Whatever clues Leo may have left behind were now hidden beneath layers of snow and ice, swallowed by nature's relentless grip. Despite the exhaustive search, the mountain gave up nothing. The rangers could only wonder, had Leo slipped away into the wilderness, or had something darker claimed him? Then, on May 10, 2025, something changed. The snow had finally melted, and with it, the iron grip of winter had loosened its hold on the mountains. It was on that Saturday morning, a group of seasoned hikers ventured onto Allen Mountain, knowing full well the challenges that lay ahead. The trail was steep, remote, and treacherous, only for those who knew the mountain's silence. As they pushed deeper along the path near Mount Adams, an unsettling shift in the air gripped them. They could feel it, the weight of something wrong. About 20 feet off the path, something caught their eye, an unnatural shape in the brush. At first, they thought it was discarded gear, maybe a forgotten backpack. But as they drew closer, they froze in horror. It wasn't just gear. It was the body of a man, weathered and partially decomposed, tangled with the earth itself. The forest, once alive with the sounds of birds and rustling leaves, seemed to fall into a stunned silence. They didn't touch anything. They backed away and immediately called authorities. What had they found? And was this the end of Leo's story, or just the beginning of something even darker? It didn't take long for law enforcement to arrive. The story of Leo Dufour, the 22-year-old experienced hiker who had vanished 5 months earlier, had spread far and wide. When New York State Police and forest rangers reached the site, they approached with caution, knowing that whatever lay before them could answer or deepen the mystery. The remains could not be disturbed until the coroner arrived. Every detail of the scene had to be preserved, as if the mountain itself might try to hide the truth. The body was collected that same day, but there was no immediate identification. The remains had been subjected to months of decay, and a visual ID was impossible. Still, there were clues. Pieces of clothing, a watch, hiking boots, details that seemed oddly familiar. Certain brands matched what Leo was believed to have worn. But the clues were not enough to make a definitive connection. The remains were sent to forensic pathologist Dr. Michael Secura for examination. The waiting began, heavy and tense. Family members, who had endured months of anguish, waited in silence. The searchers, who had scoured snow-covered trails for weeks, now hoped for the closure that had eluded them. Then, the confirmation came. The body found in the woods was indeed Leo Dufour. His disappearance had sparked an 8-day search that covered nearly 400 miles of rugged terrain. Now, after months of eerie silence, his story had resurfaced. The body had been hidden beneath layers of decay, not far from where he was last seen. What had happened in those long, silent months? The exact cause of Leo Dufour's death has never been released. Law enforcement found no weapons, no clear sign of foul play. Yet, the mystery only deepened, and unsettling questions began to emerge. Why was his body found so close to the main trail? Had Leo gotten lost in the vast wilderness, disoriented by the unforgiving terrain? Did an injury trap him, leaving him to die alone? Or had he tried to survive the brutal snowstorm that had ravaged the area just days after he vanished? No one could say for sure. And yet, what haunted people most was the idea that through all those long, cold winter months, Leo had been lying there, alone, silent, just feet away from other hikers who unknowingly passed by. The forest had kept its deadly secret until now. The body found near Allen Mountain in May 2025 finally brought an end to a mystery that had gripped 2 countries for 5 agonizing months. When news of the discovery broke, it confirmed what many had feared, but no one was prepared for the eerie silence that followed. The identity of the remains was confirmed: Leo Dufour, the 22-year-old Canadian hiker who had disappeared on November 29, 2024, was found. His disappearance had sparked an 8-day search involving over 50 forest rangers and nearly 400 miles of rugged, treacherous terrain. Now, after months of unanswered questions, his story resurfaced from the depths of the mountain, hidden beneath layers of decay, not far from where he was last seen. But even though the body was found, questions lingered. The remains were collected that same day, but the circumstances surrounding Leo's death remained unclear. No identification was found on the body, and the level of decomposition made it impossible to identify him visually. Yet there were clues. Items of clothing, a watch, and hiking boots that matched what Leo was known to have been wearing were discovered nearby. But clues, though compelling, are not enough to draw conclusions. These pieces of evidence led investigators to send the remains for a thorough examination by forensic pathologist Dr. Michael Sakura. But even after the autopsy, the answers remained elusive. The cause of death was officially listed as undetermined. For Leo's family, this provided no closure, only further heartbreak. The discovery of his body had answered one question, where he had ended up. But it had raised many more. How had Leo died? Did he fall from a height, his body thrown into a ravine? Had he been caught in a snowstorm, exposed to the bitter cold and elements? Was he lost, disoriented, or suffering from hypothermia? There was no clear answer to these questions, and as the days passed, speculation filled the empty spaces where truth could not reach. In his hometown of Vaudreuil, Quebec, his family, friends, and the community mourned his loss. Leo had been a young man full of life, an adventurer who loved exploring nature's wild beauty. He wasn't reckless. He had years of hiking experience under his belt, and he had planned his trip with precision. He had signed the trail register at the Mount Adams trailhead, indicating his intent to complete the hike alone in a single day. For him, it was a challenge, a test of his limits. But in the unforgiving Adirondack Mountains, even the most experienced hikers are at the mercy of nature. And on that cold November day, nature had shown no mercy. The case did not unfold with dramatic arrests or sensational headlines. Instead, it ended with a quiet update confirming that Leo had been found, but investigators could not determine how he died. The shocking revelation wasn't in the discovery itself. It was in how such a bright life could vanish so completely. It was in the stark reality that Leo, a young man full of promise and adventure, had disappeared into the wilderness without a trace and had been found months later, far from help, with no clear story left behind. Authorities have not suggested foul play. There's no evidence to support that theory, but the lack of a definitive conclusion left people unsettled. Leo had set out for a solo hike on a cold morning, and 5 months later, his body was found in the woods. In between, only silence. The official statements from the agencies involved in the search were filled with words of praise for the dedication and tireless efforts of the search teams. Crews had covered hundreds of miles, trudging through brutal winter weather. Helicopters were grounded by fierce storms, while dogs and drones were deployed. Rangers combed snow-covered trails on foot, looking for any sign of Leo. Despite the extensive resources dedicated to the search, nature had kept its secrets hidden until the spring. The search was one of the most resource-intensive operations in recent memory for the region, and yet it had yielded no answers until now. The tragedy of Leo Dufour serves as a chilling reminder. Even when everything is done right, even when a hiker is prepared, experienced, and follows every procedure, there are still forces that cannot be predicted or controlled. The mountains hold their secrets tightly, and sometimes they refuse to give them back. The New York authorities and the Department of Environmental Conservation had done everything they could. Yet, the mountain, its icy grip, kept its truth hidden beneath layers of snow and ice, revealing it only when the time was right. For Leo's family and those who followed the case, the mystery still lingers. No answers have been found. The only certainty is that somewhere between the trailhead and the peak, Leo disappeared into the wilderness, and 5 months later, he returned, but without a voice to tell his story. Despite the official cause of death remaining undetermined, there are theories. Investigators, experts, and the public have speculated on what might have happened to Leo in the harsh Adirondack wilderness. These theories stem from the harsh terrain, unpredictable weather patterns, and the realities of human behavior in survival situations. Could Leo have suffered an accidental fall, tumbling into a ravine where no one would see him? Was hypothermia the silent killer that took him, as the harsh winter conditions drained the life from his body? Or could something more sinister have occurred? Was there an encounter with wild animals, or perhaps an unexplained medical emergency that incapacitated him? In the absence of answers, speculation fills the gaps. What do you think happened to Leo? Could anything have made a difference in his fate? What choices, what paths, could have led to a different outcome? Share your thoughts, and remember that sometimes, in the wilderness, even the most prepared can fall prey to its unforgiving nature.